Ahead of the release of their new EP, cult classic, Click Roll Boom chats to Los Angeles-based genre-blurring duo Holy Wars to find out more about the band's history and their upcoming release. So, what's the history of Holy Wars? How did you form?
Oh, well, the history actually started because I went through a personal loss in my family. I lost both my parents in the same year,
Oh,
kind of like one right after the other. And that was in 2015. But I had given up music. We were doing music before then together as
mhm.
well, but in like an other, around town, not that was Holy Wars. And I was kind of just done with music. I was done with life, you can
Yeah, I
imagine.
can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, all of this is just vapid and nothing compares to what I'm feeling right now. So I'm just done. And I think it was about 2 years of that. Within that 2 year time after losing them, Nick was very patient with me and kind of just tried to help me find something to do, or because he knew how much I loved music. And yeah, you were like sending me song ideas, or you're like, let's work on a song 5 minutes a day, and like that 5 minute go for more and more and more. And then we wrote our first song called Back to Life. And at first I was like, I don't know, this is too much too soon. So it took a minute for me to wrap my head around wanting to be in a band again. But in 2017, we had an opportunity to perform at one of these venues out here, which is a notable venue called Echoplex. And it was our first time playing there. So we wrote a whole set of music just to fit our 30-minute slot,
Wow.
and
Time frame for writing that.
yeah, and some of that music was what I was personally healing and growing and just writing down all of my thoughts, whether it be pain or anger. And it was like my outlet. And we did that show. We named the band only so we could put it on the flyer. And that first show pretty much just changed everything for us. And we played in front of a bunch of new people that never knew us. We just took a random gig just to get out of the house and get me out of grieving. And
Yeah.
the response from that show was pretty apparent that we had something and we should probably continue on. And we've never looked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is the origin behind the band name?
I know it's it's not Megadeth though. Everybody will want to find that out. He wanted me to name the band. He was like, this is, since this is your music that you're, lyrically that you're going through, it should be from you. And I think Holy Wars just kind of came about because I have many reasons for it, but at that time I felt like a holy war existed within me,
Okay.
like I didn't know if I wanted to live or die. I didn't believe in life after death. Like everything I was raised to believe in Catholicism, and my tarot card reading mom teaching me about, like spirits and
Mm.
stuff. All of that went out the window. So I felt personally like a holy war existed inside of me, but also I saw the way religion has destroyed my family. I have a very, very Christian, certain like a born again Christian brother who did not accept my tarot card reading mother, even though we were raised Catholic. It's very confusing
Yeah.
growing up. And he disowned my parents because of it. So I've just seen nothing from pain from religion. And I don't know. Nick was like, yeah, I like that. Right.
Got a good ring to it. It's memorable, I think.
Yeah. And he grew up in Catholic school. So it wasn't like far off
Mm.
for him as well.
Yeah.
But, we kind of knew the risk with Megadeth, people mistaking us as a cover band for it doesn't happen often anymore, but we've had little fan murmurings of like, wait, what is this? I thought you were going to be a cover band.
Really.
Yeah.
So, your music often blends genres. Can you share a bit about how you navigate the fusion into your creative process?
Oh well, sure you can.
Yeah, I we're into very different stuff.
Mhm.
She really likes a lot of the more kind of hip hop and kind of more obscure stuff from like the 90s,
Mhm.
really. And then I tend to like a lot more very modern music and very not always heavy, but it's gotten that way over time.
Mhm.
And so when we combine those things, that's sort of what comes out. Um, and yeah, our music has changed a lot over the time that we've been together,
Mhm.
and we'll probably continue to keep changing.
Mhm.
But lately, it's changed. The fusion of sounds is really influenced by trying to bridge our music, our recorded music, and our live show. So we're playing music now that is really fitting to how our live show comes across.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our live show is a lot more well compared to like our music recorded prior to Deus Ex Machina and Body Temple. Our music live was always a little bit more aggressive and even heavier. And the fans, since we started touring in 2021, were, multiple fans across the country would be like, "Oh, I checked you guys out. I liked it, but man, live, you guys are something else." And if only your recorded music, represented what your live show feels like when I see you, I would have been way more hyped. So we
Yeah.
took that apart, and that's kind of why you're seeing a shift in the music now, is because we want to make sure that there isn't a disconnect between our recorded music and the way we live show.
So when it comes to songwriting, what sort of themes or personal experiences do you tend to use as your main source of influence or inspiration?
Well, I have my lyrical, but musically, what is that?
What the lyrical?
Lyrical?
That's the question.
Well, it's sad or angry. Since I was a kid, I started writing poetry in 6th grade, and that's kind of why I started singing. I found music professionally quite late in my life.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of things in the performance world before, since I was 5 years old, but it wasn't until I started writing poetry, and that was the first time I experienced real tragic loss. My sister's boyfriend died pretty tragically at that time, and I just was questioning so much stuff, and I had so much feelings about it, and I put it all into poetry. And yeah, so I've always kind of been inspired by the concept of life and death, and more sadness, like more just not even trauma, but just kind of working through
Yeah.
the darker side of life. Um, so even though I would love to say I could write a love song or I could write a club song,
Yeah.
but it's just not what I'm inspired by. So I'm always inspired by real life events, whether it's something I'm personally going through or society based, like eat it up, spit it out, as much as it was like a personal tale of my own life and how I feel living in the society. It's also kind of as a witness to what's happening
Yeah.
too, and that's my personal experience within it.
So have you ever taken any of your poetry and turned that into a song? Or would you ever try and do that?
I mean, I have. It hasn't always worked perfectly where it goes from like, exactly that to his melodies tend to shape things. But him and I, we have different writing approaches, and it's not really finite in either approach, but he loves starting with a melody or starting with a guitar riff. I love starting with a lyric. So sometimes it's hard for me to find a melody that fits the lyric, and it's a challenge for me too to write a lyric to fit a phonetical melody, because
Yeah.
it's so emotional for me that it's like, well, I'm not feeling anything currently for what this melody is showing. I hope that answers the question.
Do you always write the lyrics and you always write the music, or do you ever like cross over?
Yeah, we cross a bit.
Uh, yeah, sort of. I tend to really never write any lyrics. I don't really have any ideas for lyrics, and she's has so many. But the the emphasis on the words, I think, really matters a lot. So we talk a lot about like, saying this thing, repeating this idea or spacing this idea out over a phrase, and
Mhm.
then I will start making the music start to really highlight and accent that idea. So then, in a way, sometimes when the song is done, the emphasis will be on a certain phrase, and the song really feels like it's about that, even though initially maybe she wasn't thinking the song is about that. And in fact,
Yeah.
sometimes that is a challenge because ideally,
Yeah.
that you can aim, it's really just more about communicating what the song is about, and both of us compromising that this is the central idea, and then we can focus everything on that. But that is to say, like, yeah, I never really contribute music ideas. And in terms or
Or lyrical. I was like, you get your
lyrical ideas, but
yeah.
music ideas, she sometimes has ideas, or at least just preferences on how stuff would feel,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we definitely have a big like hand in like what the other person is doing, you know.
Yeah.
So I'll say I like that, I don't like that. Let's try this, and he'll, you know, same with lyrics. So,
I
but
suppose
yeah,
when you write the lyrics, you must have a vision of how you want them to sound, as in what emotion you want them to convey. So you need to
yeah,
make sure the music fits the feeling
absolutely.
that you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a marriage of the two that really
Yeah.
makes a great song, you know.
Do you work well together, or do you ever have creative differences and disagreements?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we work very well together. We've lasted, oh God, we've been working together musically for since 2010, 2012.
Okay.
But it hasn't always been
Mhm.
obviously, like there have been, you know, I like this, I don't like that, or I'll have songs that because they're all like babies to me.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get out, I'm like suffocating its life or something. So, you know, I'll bring up ideas from years ago, and I'm like, what about this one? Like we should, and he'll be like, yeah, but it's just not really fitting. So if we ever disagree on anything, it's very mild. You
Yeah.
know, we kind of have such a great respect for each other, and there's no ego. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're fighting for our idea for a bad reason.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, honestly, it's really, it's kind of boring when we write music because there's not a lot of conflict.
That's good though.
Yeah.
So you've got a distinctive sound. It's sort of quite industrial. What other artists have influenced how you sound, and how would you characterize your musical style?
So many artists. Well, industrial, we both are huge fans of Nine Inch Nails for sure. And I feel like that's like a tick for everybody. But I don't know. What would you think?
Yeah, Nine Inch Nails. Usually when we're writing and we're talking about stuff that we're into, even though like earlier I said like I really like stuff that sounds very modern and very fresh, I try and keep an eye on that. But at the same time, I really try for us not to be influenced by anything that's happening. Like if a new song comes out and it's really popular and we're really excited about it, as we're starting to get excited about it, I start trying to. I don't want to listen to that anymore because like too many times we've written a song that sounds too much like the thing that we're into at that time,
Yeah.
and it's never a good idea.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
scrap it. And then we're like, all right, well, start
Yeah,
over.
so like influences of stuff that we liked when we first started doing music, that's always good.
Yeah.
So usually it always comes back to like yeah, Nine Inch Nails or Rage Against the Machine. Those
Even
are
Radiohead. I mean, early on in our first EP, you could probably hear more of those Radiohead
Yeah.
influences, but I love Karen O of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Yeah.
I love singers too that they have such a stylized voice, you
Yeah.
know, really the song really fits their voice for like, oh, it's Adele and Adele can sing anything. Like
Yeah.
I love like a real stylized singer, and I really try to always think about us as that and like how do we make something, but you know, we are also very multifaceted. So it's kind of like we're a little bit of everything
Yeah.
too.
Suppose you need to make sure it's memorable so people can think that's Holy Wars. They don't think, oh, who was that band? I can't remember who they were. You want them to instantly remember you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Of course, that's the goal for me, at least, you know, just to make sure that while we're so into genre blending, because we have so many different things we'd like to do, I don't want to be too confusing to which I hope, and I've heard before from fans like, oh, you guys are taking a new direction, but it still sounds like you guys, at least whatever it is. I don't know if it's coming from his guitar tones or my voice, but somehow there's a through line, and that makes
Yeah.
me happy.
See, I like it because it is so different, and it's very much for me, it's very much out of my listening comfort zone. It's not something I would normally listen to, but it is so fresh and so innovative that I really like it.
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
So you've got a new EP coming out, Cult Classic. Can you tell me a bit more about it and where the inspiration and direction came from for that?
Oh, well, we've been working on this one since last year, right? We started with Deus Ex Machina and then Body Temple. Um, I mean, that one kind of came sporadically because we ended up getting signed in the middle of crafting that EP. So that delayed some things. And by the time we got around to like finalizing the deal, some other songs that we were like, it's not right for this. Let's just wait for next year. So it was like kind of a puzzle piece. And then we went on tour a few times. He went on tour with another artist at that time. So it was like kind of piecing it together. But I think once we wrote Cult Classic, we knew that was going to be the title, probably the title track. And I just love, like, I love titles that give you, I come from like a filmmaking background and I grew up in theater. So I love a visual concept as much as just like a good song. And when we saw Cult Classic, then we were like, okay, I think the whole EP should be shaped around this feeling of what it is, whether it's a horror thing. And every even like the artwork, I wanted every piece of artwork to be kind of like those cult classic horror films, but instead of like the horror coming from the outside and dangerously coming at you, the horror is within you.
Yes.
So like the whole album, lyrically, even visually, is kind of more about we are our own turmoil and how, like the monster lives inside because of the outside making us this
Yeah.
way, but it's still we have the power. We're the creator and the destroyer of ourselves. So that was kind of called classic to me, but I'm sure musically you have other things.
Yeah. The last thing that we put out before we started releasing songs from this EP was Drugs Are Digital, and it sounds nothing like any of this new music. And that's on purpose. I knew that we couldn't go any less heavy because it seemed like the only way to go is where we're going now, which is like it's heavier, but it's not just heavier. Like generally, we're adding in that side of it now. We're allowing ourselves to do that. But also for me, it's really just getting back to trying to write songs again, and trying to commit to melodies and
Hooks, yeah, hooks again.
and trying to write songs again. I think there's a lot of sounds and like drum beats, but like not a lot of songs a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of artists today are influenced by TikTok,
Yeah.
or they were. I don't know if they still are, but it's like, ooh, badass, statement, and then just like a drop.
Yeah.
It's cool, but that's kind of like where we're thinking is like, where are those evergreen songs that like in 20 years from now,
Yeah.
people are going to be in the bar being like, oh, I love this one. It was a song of
Yeah.
my time, so.
Yeah, there's not going to be that many bands that stand the test of time, like say, I don't know, Oasis or Blur or whoever. I don't think we're going to be remembering, well, an awful lot of them just are going to disappear. And
Yeah, bands today or artists, I shouldn't just say bands, artists today are very much of like for today. And I'm not that they're not trying to be artists of the time, but it is more about like the trend, or a song will be so overplayed, that now it's like, I can't even listen to that TikTok. I killed
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think there's
totally.
a risk at the minute with bands because music's so easy to kind of put out there that they overdo it. So they're releasing a new song every week or every 2 weeks and not putting out long form albums or EPs. They're just releasing single after single. And I think it very much dilutes their sound. I think it's better when a band puts the effort into putting out a longer form and really thinks about, like you've explained, the concept behind Cult Classic. I don't
Yeah,
think there is that concept behind just putting out a whole string of singles.
exactly. Yeah, because I feel like we live in such a data world now where people just want to see monthly listenership going up. And I mean, don't we all? That just shows that
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
caring or
Yeah.
paying attention. But oh,
Yeah.
that's you hear? I sorry. So as we're saying, like our Wi-Fi is good. But we lost our connection. Can you see us?
I can see you.
Oh, okay. We just can't see you, but it'll
Oh,
come.
okay.
Hi. Um, but yeah, I feel like to just we're working after Cult Classic, we're working towards a full length album as
Yeah.
well with another thing like where it is like a full body of work. But I think a lot of people they're all about just dropping singles as much.
Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
It's all right. We're okay. Are we still okay? We're still recording. We're back. Hey. Anyways, yeah, it was just me kind of complaining more about how we're so like you said, overconsumption. That's kind of what our last
Yeah.
album was about. Eat it up, spit it out. Where it's just like here today, gone tomorrow. Who's next? Like there's no value in much of anything
Which
anymore.
is a shame. And that's just life, though, isn't there's no value in anything in life at the minute. It's so
Yeah.
disposable.
It's so disposable and it's so sad. And no wonder like most of us have like mental health problems.
Right,
And
exactly.
of course, we're open to talking about it today, where maybe in the past, even just 10 years ago, we would have been a little bit too ashamed to admit, like, yeah, I'm depressed, you know. But I also think because information is so fast and it's constantly coming at us, and there's
Yeah.
filters of what you're supposed to look like, a better version of you if you just had the money for it. Like, it's just so much pressure for anybody nowadays. You know?
Definitely. And I think that's where a lot of the mental health issues are coming from. Yes, we're freer to talk about it, but I think they're being caused by the fast society that we live in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, remember, I mean, I don't know, just like even, I don't know, when my parents were coming up, you know, like your network was your neighborhood
yeah,
or
exactly.
your school or your workplace. But
Yeah.
now our network is the entire world of who we have to compare ourselves to.
Blows your
It's
mind. Yeah.
insane. Yeah.
So your lyrics often carry a lot of emotion. How do you go about translating those feelings into your songs?
The emotion side,
Yeah.
I don't really think about it. I think I just kind of hopefully it just gets in there. But yeah, I feel like lyrically there's always definitely a lot of emotion behind my lyrics, just because I don't know, my human design, I'm a feeler, you know.
Yeah.
So I think my purpose here is to feel and to transform into something that maybe somebody else can relate to. So in the goal, like the end goal of all of us and humans, we just don't want to feel alone, you know. So if you write a body of work that, even though you're like, oh, this is so much about me and I'm just talking about myself, but when that listener hears it, they're thinking about them and it's
Exactly. Yeah.
like that. So that's
I,
kind of
I,
what
I suppose you might write it about one thing, but obviously when someone listens to it, they can put whatever meaning and whatever spin, so they can almost make your words their own to fit with their life, which
yeah.
yeah.
And that's what, you know, that's what they say, never say the meaning behind your songs,
Yeah.
because you might ruin it for somebody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said that I'm more of a lyric kind of person. I find I connect with words far more than I do the music.
Yeah, me too.
And I would rather have depth within the words than something really musically technical. I feel like
Yeah.
it's lost on me.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And a lot of people do. They listen to melody or beat first, probably. But I'm always like, what's that lyric? And
Yeah,
and the lyric,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, can just really change me in a good way.
I'll often talk in lyric quotes as well, like just in normal conversation, and people don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna try doing that. I'll be like,
So what's the energy like during your live shows? What sort of experience do you aim to create for the people that go to see you?
I don't know. You take this. I feel like you're not going to be happy with my answer. I can already tell.
I know, say it.
No, no,
I want to
please,
hear what
please,
you're
yeah.
saying. Oh hell. What is the energy we're trying to create?
Yeah, sort of the
Yeah.
atmosphere and the experience you want to create for the audience.
I mean, I'd love to know from your side. Me, I definitely, because I put all my attention on the audience, even though like there's so many times like I'll see a video of the band rocking out and I'm like, oh man, they look so like they're having a great time. I wish I was there with them, but I was, but I put all my focus on the audience, you know. So I think I always like to break down that wall, you know, between me and them. And, you know, I feel like that's why I get in the crowd. And that's why I kind of like, if someone's kind of just sitting there not giving me anything, I'll go right up to that person, make them, you know, I don't know. I just like kind of shaking people up and hopefully empowering them in a positive way. Of course, it'd be nice if they liked what we did up there, but I also kind of let go of needing to win every soul in the room. And we kind of go out there with like a fuck it energy. Like you either like us or hate us. I don't care. We're going to do our thing. And hopefully, you know, you were inspired by this. But he's a very quiet guy, but on stage, he turns into quite a ripper. Like he's just like on the stage. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just, you know, when we first started the band, it was really important to us that we we made the biggest impression that we could every time we played. And I think that what happened right away was we started to really try and go really aggressively on the stage, a lot more than you would expect from whatever type of music we're playing at the time.
Mm.
And now that's just become kind of a normal way that we do it,
Yeah.
expressing the music,
Yeah, it's a lot of energy on stage. So that's one thing a lot of people leave saying, like, oh, guys, you guys have so much energy. But I get bored if I go and see other bands that even if I like the song, they're just up there kind of just look like they're bored. So I'm bored.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than looking at a band and they look like going through the motions and they're not having fun.
Yeah, it's, I like to think of it as like if this was, God forbid, the last day of all of our lives, like what is this the way you want to go out,
Yeah. So you take it you never suffer from any kind of stage fright or nerves?
Oh, I still get stage fright, I think, but I have a dialogue that I say to myself. He cares more about like the gear and if everything's working. I think you get more nervous about that than maybe like the people in the room.
Yeah, I currently have many roles when it comes to the live part of doing the show, and I'm responsible for everybody else's technical needs, and that everything translates to the audience. So there's a lot in my head. So currently it is pretty anxious when I'm doing the shows, but we're still having a great time doing it.
Yeah, it's like once like the show starts, then we're all just kind of like blacked out on our own planets. And then at the end of that set, we're like, whew, everything worked. Great.
Have you had any disasters where things haven't worked?
Oh gosh, I don't remember actually.
No.
I know there was one moment before we started Welcome to Rockville, there was like a storm coming and something happened to one of our gear and I was like, what? And it was like seconds before we were gonna come on. I was like, oh my God, I'm not hearing anything. What's happening? But he solved it quickly. So that was like an almost problem, especially for our first major festival of the year. I had a lot of emotions that day. I remember I was really nervous that day because I didn't know what to expect. I've never played in front of a festival crowd before.
Okay. Yeah.
Where being an opener on tour, I've gotten the lay of that land. So I'm like, okay, I can put myself in any situation and not be nervous. But that was different. But also that same day was my mom's birthday. And we were at the racetrack and my dad was a race car driver, but he never went pro. So it was like so much like also emotion for me too, just with my family. So I felt like a big old golf ball in my throat right before we went on, but it was a great set. So in the end, it was all good.
What's been your biggest show to date?
Our biggest show?
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the festivals, but we did Coheed and Cambria, the amphitheater tour.
It's maybe Coheed and Cambria at the Greek or Louder Than Life.
Yeah. Aftershock was definitely the funnest, I think, from the year.
Has that been your favorite?
Me personally, yeah, probably. It was just cool because, yeah, I feel like, festivals are great. If you're on the bill, it's great. Just say like, oh my God, I just shared the same stage that Billy Joe from Green Day is going to be walking down the same catwalk. Like just to have that, my child in me is like, I can't believe you're here. But the fans were just so, I mean, they're always good, but that one especially, I learned where you're at in the festival really matters. If you're on a later time slot, if you're on a Saturday versus a Sunday, like a lot goes into play when you're a band that's not the headliner, and the amount of energy the audience has to give you, while you're out there giving them everything.
How hungover they are.
Yeah, exactly. So like an Aftershock, we were going for it, but they were also giving us so much. We got out, we got the circle pits going. It was fun. Yeah.
Have you played over in Europe much or outside of the States or?
Never, and we can't wait. We do have an agent that's working us over there, so we're kind of waiting for the right opportunity. He's played over the States, but not for us. He's played with other artists.
Yeah, but we want to We want to though, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get these comments like, come to the UK, come to
Yeah.
Denmark. And I'm like, come to Brazil. I'm like, I would love that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it takes a lot to get over.
Are you planning on touring the EP?
Well, we definitely want to tour next year, but when the EP drops in November, we're actually just gonna write the rest of the album the rest of the year, the next album.
Yeah.
Because we always want to get ahead of it. That's something that because we've been touring a lot lately, we've been kind of always playing catch up to our releases, and that's why there was and with the record deal, there was such a long distance between dropping Eat It Up, Spit It Out, and then coming up with the next EP. I personally would have liked the music to be out sooner, but you know, just scheduling, you know, the deal signing, all of it kind of delayed things. So I think it's more important to us right now, while we had such an incredible year this year, that we spend the rest of this year getting ready for next year. And then
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think your sound has changed over the years? And do you think it's important to constantly like refresh and evolve to keep it exciting?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's important.
Yeah. Our sound has changed a lot. In the beginning, we were writing. I remember we were talking about writing stuff that I said this before, but we really were doing this at the time. Writing whatever we were into when we first got into music. We were trying to make music that sounded like that. That was our first EP.
Like Failure too. That was a big influence. That band Failure.
And we still love that EP a lot. And then after that, we sort of transitioned into being full-time songwriters for film and TV, and then also doing the band. So we're kind of unique in that way. And then you can hear the sound of the band sort of be affected, influenced by we're writing a lot of songs at the time for sort of commercial use. And then now what we're working our way back to is sort of combining all those things. One, to be accessible, but also like really trying to bring back meaningful lyrics and music that is more unique, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, because, you know, lyrically too, after writing an EP about the death of your parents, it's like, what am I ever going to say that's going to be of importance as that?
Yeah.
So it took me a while too, after figuring out, and we wrote very sparsely. That's kind of why things didn't really pick up for us until 2020, because we'd only dropped maybe one or two singles a whole year, because I personally too was just like, what can I say? Like, it all just feels so inauthentic, even if it wasn't. But to me, it was not important enough. And he was also kind of like, you know, I think playing that body and work every night, and we were playing a lot at that time, sometimes twice a month in LA, just playing.
Yeah, we were playing twice a month, but it doesn't sound like a lot, but we were trying to promote each one like really, really like a band will do like one big headline show in their city, one or two a year. And we were trying to do that twice a month and really trying to come up with creative ways to promote it and trying to book everything. And it was way too much.
It was exhausting. But also too, though, when you play this music live, the first EP, I was kind of wanting people to like move more. They were crying, you know, they were like, you know, and it just was so exhausting to kind of live death over and over and give this part of myself every night to people.
Yeah. So that was very emotionally torturous.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's certain songs from our catalog that we'll just never play. And maybe one headlining in an hour and a half set, and you know, I'll bring it back, because to me, and like he mentioned too, I don't ever want to lose sight of what we were. So new music does need to have the depth that we had, and that pure raw emotion that we had in our initial states. But you know, after 2020 and the world going practically on fire, you know, there was a lot more feelings coming up again that, you know, might not have been about my parents, but it was about like, real life shit, you know, that
Yeah.
all of us were simultaneously feeling, you know.
I suppose with the first EP and the subject matter of that, it was almost for you more than for the audience, because it was your way to heal and your way to overcome it. Although people can listen to it and enjoy it, whatever, it was more important for you to get that out,
Absolutely.
to get healed from it, sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And we'll have fans too that will be like, oh, you guys don't play Orphan anymore. You guys don't play, you know, and
Mm.
it's not that we won't, but at this time, you know, we really haven't really wanted to do a headline tour yet, but we're working towards that. So while we're opening, you know, we really want to create a set that is just like fast,
Yeah.
like get you hyped, you
Yeah.
know, and that is another type of catharsis. You know, the first catharsis was healing and like,
Yeah.
oh, my pain on a platter, you know, look at it, it
Yeah.
sucks. But now the catharsis is like, be free, you know, move, like feel something.
Yeah.
Don't just dead eyes us, you know, like actually feel something. So it's all the same type of emotion, it's just different sides of it.
It's almost now like you're feeling anger more than pain with how your music is.
Yeah, I think the anger's in there. I don't know why, but I'm a wound up little bunny. Like I'm just like the Energizer bunny, and I'm like with my knife, you know. But but it's definitely yeah, like
That's more interesting than lots of sappy love songs. You know, you get to the point where you've heard more than enough sappy love songs.
seriously, yeah. We're like definitely I'm a happy person to an extent, but I'm a Scorpio, you know. So I don't know if you follow zodiacs, but I feel like, you know, through and through, like it or hate it, I'm a Scorpio all the way, and this is how I share my art, is through the dark side, through the shadow self, you know.
So lastly, what does the future of Holy Wars look like?
Oh gosh, what is our future?
We're writing new music, and I think the big focus is to get the best songs that we can for this new album that we're in the very early stages of working on.
Yeah.
And
Will
then
that be all new songs, or will any of the stuff you've previously recorded from your EP be on there?
that'll be new songs.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of ideas for that and what that will sound like, and that'll be for next year. And then in the meantime, yeah, I think we're trying to figure out the right touring opportunity to see where we're going to go next, you know?
Yeah, I think we definitely want to have a stacked year of touring next year. And but it's nice to have music out first, or ready to drop at the time. So yeah, we're definitely more focused on getting that next album, but we're gonna have a release party for Cult Classic. We won't be playing, which will actually be kind of nice because we never celebrate anything. We're always just kind of like go on to the next one. And this will be a nice moment to like bring out friends. It's like the day, and it's also the day after my birthday, of which I never celebrate either. So it'll be nice to just have a bunch of friends and fans in the room, and just celebrating a body of work that we're proud of. But yeah, as soon as that release party's over, we're gonna go right back into writing and recording. Yeah.
That's a good plan. I hope everything goes well with the EP. Is it out on the 10th of November?
Yes. Yep.
Brilliant. It's been lovely speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.